2015. This was the year. The year that women's wrestling arguably transformed. Defined by a match that was an instant classic and stood out amongst the rest. Now let's dive into the events leading up to this match and see the ups and downs of the WWE Women's Division in 2015. February 23rd, Fastlane pay-per-view. Nikki Bella defeats Paige in just over 5 short minutes. The next night on Raw, the women were given just 30 seconds of a 3-hour show. The crowd was vocal. The lack of women's representation was noticeable and people took note. So many people, in fact, that the hashtag #GiveDivasAChance became a social media movement. March 28th, Alundra Blaze was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame, legitimizing a legend. She was only the 8th woman to receive the honor at the time and was a true trailblazer and pioneer for women's wrestling. April 3rd, it is announced that AJ Lee has retired from professional wrestling. A definite blow to the women's division, as AJ was a game changer in making a difference in an evolving division. May 14th, Sasha Banks and Charlotte Flair main event at NXT Philly, a first of its kind in WWE history. Now this was on a smaller stage, some downplayed it even, calling it a glorified house show. But they had the hottest feud going on in NXT and were given that main event spot for a reason. The crowd seemed skeptical at first with this being a main event, but Sasha and Charlotte won them over, kicking the crap out of each other and putting on an amazing match. July 4th, the WWE Beast in the East, Tokyo, Japan. Nikki Bella, Tamina Snuka, and Paige have a banger of a match in Tokyo, where Nikki retains the Divas title. The world was watching. July 13th, Stephanie McMahon announces 3 women from NXT were called up to the main roster. That night, Sasha Banks, Charlotte Flair, and Becky Lynch debuted, 3 of the 4 horsewomen of NXT. Bayley was recovering from a broken hand at the time. Their debut culminated with each woman simultaneously applying their submissions to Team Bella, signifying a change was coming with the fresh new blood of the NXT women. July 19th, Battleground pay-per-view. Sasha, Charlotte, and Brie Bella were given 11 minutes and 30 seconds for their match, which was a drastic improvement from the sub-5-minute matches usually given to the women. This was longer than the main event that night. Things were changing. August 22nd, the whole women's wrestling landscape changed by one legendary match. NXT TakeOver Brooklyn. Stephanie McMahon, with practically tears in her eyes, proudly announced the first of 2 main events on the night. Bayley vs. Sasha for the NXT Women's Championship. The build-up to this got the fans invested. Bayley was the underdog, a hard-working competitor who fans could relate to. She was left behind when her 4 horsewomen counterparts appeared on Raw and had never won a championship at the time, despite being so close so many times. Sasha, on the other hand, was an arrogant heel that didn't take Bayley as a serious threat to her NXT Women's Championship. The build-up made wrestling fans care. Then the bell rang, and these women made everyone in the arena become invested. The energy was unparalleled. The emotion, the athleticism displayed in this match was top-notch. Big spots, reversals, Sasha's heel banter and tactics on Bayley's injured hand, near falls, the back-and-forth action had the crowd on their feet, cheering, chanting, but most importantly, respecting what these women were doing. 18 minutes and 22 seconds after the bell rang, the smoke settled and Bayley was victorious, becoming the new NXT Women's Champion. But on this night, every woman in the locker room came out winners. The 4 horsewomen stood tall in the ring after the match. A statement was made. That statement was that women can be the top draw on the card and can be more than just objects. They can be badass, athletic, beautiful, strong professional wrestlers. And this match, in my opinion, is one that completely changed the mindset and landscape of a male-dominated business. And that's why today I am highlighting a figure that represents that match from NXT TakeOver Brooklyn, WWE Network Spotlight Elite, Bayley. Hey y'all, welcome to Lumberjillville. Women's wrestling lives here. And welcome into the very first episode of the Figures of the Women's Revolution. So I'm really excited for this new series I'm going to be doing where I'm going to combine a history lesson with also an up-close look at a figure that represents a time or an attire that made a huge impact on the women's revolution. So without further ado, let's start with the very first episode, very first figure I'm going to cover here with the Network Spotlight Bayley. So here it is, the lone figure that represents that amazing match on August 22nd, 2015 at NXT TakeOver Brooklyn, where Bayley defeated Sasha to become the new NXT Women's Champion. Now, we are going to take a closer look at this out of the box as well, but for now, let's look at the packaging. So this is a Network Spotlight Elite, so we have this red theme kind of going over it. Now, this figure in the box looks tremendous. I would highly recommend getting this figure MOC to display because it looks stunning, honestly. And the fact that it is such a historical night and historical moment, this is a great MOC figure to have. On the side, we have an image of Bayley here. And on the other side, same thing, just a little lower. And on the back, it's cool because it talks about that NXT Brooklyn match, but it also talks about the scanning technology that they used for this and how she has an emotion to her face. And that's something we'll cover when we look closer at the figure. But yeah, I love the emotion in her face in this figure. So this is a very cool figure, and it's great to represent that night. But with that being said, let's take a closer look at the figure out of the box. All right, so the first thing I'm going to say about this figure, once it's opened, is this thing's fun. It makes me smile. I freaking love this. It stands out and pops so much on display. Now, I am going to say this is my loose version of the figure. I do have an MOC version that I really don't want to open up. I want to keep it because I really think it does display a historical moment. And the one thing missing from my loose version of the figure here is a solid black hair bow. Now, it should have polka dots on it, but I don't believe it does. It's hard to tell in the packaging, but that is the one thing that my loose figure is missing, is that removable black hair bow. But starting with the accessories, let's go on to these streamers that go across her shoulders, down her arms. This is what really makes a figure pop and stand out, in my opinion. I mean, this is so awesome and iconic to her entrance that night. And what's really cool about it is it is easily removable. So, as you can see, she's got this piece that goes around her neck, and it's got a little button fasten here that you just pull back. And then you remove this part from around her neck. And she has a little fasten that goes around each hand. You slide it off, and boom, we have it off. But yeah, these streamers are great. Now, it is plastic. It's not cloth, which would have been really cool. But the plastic looks cool, and we got the gold, white, black, and purple. So yeah, this is great. Now let's take a closer look at this figure, starting with the face. So this face scan for Bayley is awesome. I'm a huge fan of it. It's nice to see that emotion or expression because honestly, we don't get that a whole lot in women's figures. So it's really cool that we got her kind of yelling, having that emotion on her face. And it's great that on the back of the box it even details and kind of shows the technology they use to capture that. And that's awesome. Also, she's got her signature side ponytail and has this accurate red headband going through her hair with a green scrunchie. And yeah, it is good. Now, I am going to say, and I might be being nitpicky, but I would have loved to see an additional head come with this figure that had maybe a little disheveled hair, show more post-match hair, and then have a face scan of her with a serious expression or her crying, kind of signifying the historic moment. I think that would have been an awesome alternate head, or even a primary head to come with such a historic figure. But it is what it is, and I think this is definitely a cool scan, so I'll take it. But yeah, I would have loved to have that alternate head also included. So moving on down to her attire, this was what really made me smile, and the attention to detail was pretty freaking awesome for this figure. But let's just get the negative out of the way here. She does have that sports bra generic top with her actual top just painted on top, and it's pretty darn noticeable. Usually the lighter the color they use, the more noticeable it is, and I can't stand that. That drives me nuts. Now, let's get the negative out of here and let's cover the positive. What's awesome? Her wrist tape, or her little wristbands, have polka dots on it. Now, this was signifying how she honored Dusty Rhodes in her attire. She also had the headband that had polka dots in it as well that night. But that's so cool that they included the polka dots on her wrist tape. Another really awesome, intricate attention to detail is her right hand is taped up. Now, this was the hand that she was recovering from that was broke previous in the year. And a lot of Sasha's offense focused around this hand. At some point, she even took the tape off. So it's awesome and such a good little attention to detail to have that hand kind of look like it's taped up there. Very cool. Now, she does have this gold and white attire going all around. She has a Bayley logo on her backside there. She has this molded plastic piece that goes around to simulate the streamers that she had on her attire, so that's a nice little attention to detail they added. And her boots are just a plain black. But either way, I think what really pops on this figure's attire is that tribute to Dusty Rhodes that they included that was accurate, and also that right hand having the simulation of it being taped up. Like, I really do enjoy and love that and think it's great. And here's one last look at the WWE Network Spotlight Bayley Elite, representing her match with Sasha at NXT TakeOver Brooklyn in 2015, making this our first featured figure that represents the women's revolution. Thanks for checking out the very first episode of the Figures of the Women's Revolution. I'm super excited for this series and can't wait to do more episodes this summer, so definitely look for those. Also, the Chyna and Trish Stratus Showdown 2-pack Wave 5 should be here any day, so that review will be up very soon. But either way, thanks for stopping by Lumberjillville. Women's wrestling lives here. Have a great night, y'all.